Tonight, let's take the most extraordinary journey ever imagined. A trip through hell, up a holy mountain, and into the heart of heaven itself. No pressure to stay awake for all of it. This story has waited 700 years. It can wait for you to drift off whenever you like. It begins with a man who is completely lost. Not lost on a road or a trail. Lost in his own life. Stuck in the middle of everything. His name is Dante. He's 35 years old, and it's the year 1300. He wakes up in a dark forest with absolutely no idea how he got there. Picture it. Trees so thick you can't see the sky. No path beneath your feet. Every direction looks the same. That's where Dante wakes up. He tries to climb a sunlit hill ahead, but 3 beasts block his way. A leopard quick and spotted. A lion head held high. A hungry she-wolf. The she-wolf is the worst. She drives him back step by step, down the hill, back into the darkness he came from. All hope of climbing vanishes. Then a figure appears in the gloom. A tall man in a white toga, calm and dignified. His name is Virgil, the ancient Roman poet, dead for 13 centuries. Virgil explains that a woman in heaven sent him. Her name is Beatrice. She saw Dante wandering lost, wept for him, and begged Virgil to help. But here's the terrifying part. The only way out of this dark forest is not up the hill. It's down. They must go through hell itself. Dante hesitates. He asks Virgil, "Am I really worthy of this?" The hero Aeneas went to the underworld. St. Paul visited. But why me? I'm nobody. Virgil answers gently, 3 blessed women in heaven are watching over you right now. The Virgin Mary, St. Lucia, and your own Beatrice. You are not alone. Something shifts in Dante's heart. He stands up. He straightens his robe. He looks at Virgil and says, "Lead on. I'll follow. Let's begin this thing." They walk through deepening darkness until an enormous stone gateway looms before them. Carved into ancient rock. The entrance to hell. It feels like the end of everything. Above the gate, words carved in stone. "Through me you enter the city of woe. Through me you enter eternal sorrow. Abandon all hope, you who enter here." Inside, the first thing they find is not fire or ice. It's a crowd of people running in circles, chasing a blank banner that means nothing at all. These are the souls who never chose a side. Never committed to good or evil. Heaven won't have them, and hell proper won't either. They exist in this miserable nowhere. Dante spots someone in the crowd who looks familiar. But Virgil tells him not to stop. These souls aren't worth remembering. They never truly lived. Keep walking. They reach a river bank. Dark water, black as old blood. Thousands of naked souls crowd the muddy shore, wailing and waiting for the ferry that will carry them across. A boat appears on the black water. Standing in it is Charon, the ferryman of the dead. Ancient as stone, eyes burning red like coals, he screams at the waiting souls. Charon sees Dante and stops. "You," he snarls, "you're alive. The living don't belong here. Get away from my boat. You have no business with the dead." Virgil steps forward and speaks with quiet authority. "It is willed where what is willed must be. Do not question it, Charon. Let us pass." And Charon obeys. The ground shakes violently. A red flash splits the darkness like lightning. Wind screams through the cavern. Dante's legs give way beneath him, and everything goes black. He wakes on the other side. The air is different here. No screaming, no fire. Just a deep, quiet sadness that seems to have no end. This is limbo. Limbo is the first circle. The people here didn't sin. They simply lived before Christ came, or they were never baptized. Their only punishment is longing without hope. And here's the heartbreaking part. This is where Virgil lives. Dante's guide, his protector through hell, will return to this place of quiet despair when the journey ends. Inside a noble castle surrounded by 7 walls, they find the greatest minds of the ancient world. Homer greets Virgil warmly. Horace, Ovid, and Lucan welcome him home. Beyond them, Aristotle sits surrounded by philosophers. Plato and Socrates beside him. The greatest thinkers humanity ever produced, all gathered here in dignified, endless sorrow. No flames here, no monsters. Just the quiet devastation of knowing that you will never, ever reach God. That's the cruelty of limbo. It looks peaceful. It's not. Dante and Virgil leave the castle behind. They walk toward a steep descent. Below them, the real horrors of hell begin. The darkness deepens. The screaming starts. The second circle hits them like a wall of sound. A hurricane of screaming voices, an eternal storm that never stops, tearing through pitch darkness with terrible force. At the entrance crouches Minos, the judge of the dead, a monstrous figure who wraps his serpentine tail around himself, each coil assigning sinners to their proper circle below. These are the lustful, people who let desire overpower their reason. In life they were swept away by passion. Now the wind sweeps them forever, never letting them rest. Two souls fly past, pressed together even in punishment. Dante calls out to them. They drift toward him like doves carried by longing. It's Francesca and her lover Paolo. Francesca speaks while Paolo weeps. She was married to his brother Giovanni, a political arrangement. She never chose her husband. But she chose Paolo, and that choice destroyed them both. One day, she says, we were reading together about Lancelot, how he kissed Guinevere. The book brought our eyes together. The book was our go-between. We were alone. That day we read no further. 5 words that say everything. They kissed. They were discovered by her husband. And he killed them both with a single sword thrust. Dante is so overwhelmed by their story that he faints. He drops like a dead body falls. The pity is too much. Love and death tangled together, and he cannot bear it. He wakes in the third circle. Cold rain pours endlessly from a black sky. The ground is a foul-smelling swamp. And a massive 3-headed dog guards the glutton's lying face down in the muck. A soul sits up from the mud. He recognizes Dante. His name is Sciacco, a Florentine, and he tells Dante that Florence will tear itself apart. Civil war is coming. Deeper still, the 4th circle. Here the greedy and the wasteful are locked in eternal combat, pushing enormous boulders at each other in 2 great colliding waves. Virgil pauses here to explain something beautiful. Fortune, he says, is God's servant. She spins her wheel, and no human cleverness can hold on to wealth forever. It simply moves. The 5th circle is a swamp. The river Styx spreads out before them, thick and dark as tar. On its surface, the wrathful fight each other endlessly, biting and clawing through black mud. Beneath the surface, bubbles rise. Those are the sullen, Virgil explains. People who were bitter and joyless in life, now gurgling beneath the mud. They had sunlight and refused to enjoy it. A ferryman named Phlegias rows them across the Styx in a small iron boat. The water is so thick with anger that the boat barely moves through it, every inch fought for. A soul grabs the boat's edge. Filippo Argenti, a proud Florentine. Dante recognizes him and, for the first time, shows no pity. Go away, he says. And Virgil actually praises him for it. Across the Styx, a city appears. The city of Dis. Iron walls glowing red hot in the darkness. Towers belching fire. Fallen angels standing guard on the battlements, refusing them entry. Something unsettling happens. Virgil steps forward to negotiate. And for the first time in the journey, he seems uncertain. The fallen angels slam the gate in his face. Dante's protector has been refused. But then the ground trembles. A heavenly messenger descends, walking across the Styx without even getting wet. He touches the gate with a small wand. It flies open, the angels scatter like roaches. Inside the walls of Dis lies the 6th circle. The ground is covered with open stone tombs, each one glowing with internal fire. Here burn the heretics who denied the soul's immortality. From one of these burning tombs, a figure rises. Tall and proud, contempt written on every line of his face. This is Farinata degli Uberti, the great Ghibelline leader of Florence. Farinata doesn't care that he's in hell. He wants to argue about Florentine politics. He and Dante trade insults about whose faction was exiled, whose returned pride survives even fire. Another soul rises from the same tomb, Cavalcante, father of Dante's friend. He asks desperately about his son. Is he alive? Dante hesitates, and the old man collapses, thinking his boy is dead. Here's the cruelty. The damned can see the future but not the present. Cavalcante can foresee distant events, but doesn't know if his own son is alive right now. Knowledge twisted into torture. They continue deeper. The air grows thick with a stench so terrible that even in hell it's remarkable. Virgil suggests they stop behind a tomb to let their senses gradually adjust. While they wait, Virgil explains hell's design. Below them are 3 more circles. Violence against others. Violence against yourself. Violence against God and nature. Each one worse than the last. At the entrance to the 7th circle, the Minotaur blocks their path. Half man, half bull, raging and biting itself in fury. Virgil taunts the creature, and while it charges blindly, they slip past. The first ring of the 7th circle. A river of boiling blood called the Phlegethon stretches before them. In it, tyrants and murderers are submerged to varying depths, screaming in the crimson current. Centaurs patrol the riverbank with bows and arrows. If any soul tries to rise above their assigned depth, an arrow drives them back down. Chiron, their leader, inspects the travelers carefully. The centaur Nessus carries them across the river, pointing out famous tyrants as they wade. Alexander, Attila the Hun, others lost to history. All boiling in the blood they spilled in life. Beyond the blood river lies a forest. But this is no ordinary wood. The trees are twisted and black, with thorny branches and no leaves. Harpies nest in the canopy screeching. Virgil tells Dante to break a branch. He does, and the tree screams. Dark blood pours from the wound. A voice cries out from inside the wood. These trees are people. The tree is Pier della Vigna, once the most trusted advisor to Emperor Frederick. Falsely accused of treason, he took his own life in prison. Now he is trapped inside this bleeding wood forever. The worst detail. On Judgment Day, when all souls reclaim their bodies, the suicides will not. They rejected their flesh. So their bodies will hang from their own branches, like terrible ornaments. Past the forest, a burning desert stretches under a rain of fire. Flakes of flame drift down like snow in reverse, landing on naked souls who try to brush them off, burning endlessly. Among the souls on the burning sand, Dante finds someone he knows. Brunetto Latini, his beloved teacher. The man who taught him how to write, down here among the condemned. Brunetto doesn't complain about his punishment. Instead, he gives Dante advice about life, about writing, about staying true to his work. A teacher to the very last, even in hell. Dante walks above on a stone ledge, while Brunetto walks below on the burning sand. Student above teacher. The reversal breaks Dante's heart. He bows his head in grief and gratitude together. At the edge of a vast cliff, a monster rises from the abyss. Geryon, the embodiment of fraud. A beautiful, honest human face on the body of a spotted serpent with a scorpion's tail. They climb onto Geryon's back, and he drops off the cliff, spiraling slowly downward through darkness. Dante clings to the monster's fur in absolute terror, unable to see the bottom below. They land in the 8th circle. Melbulge meaning evil ditches. 10 concentric trenches carved in dark stone, connected by arched bridges. This is where fraud is punished in all its forms. In the first ditch, panderers and seducers march in 2 lines going opposite directions, driven forever by horned demons with whips. Those who used others for pleasure now driven like cattle. In the second ditch, the flatterers, immersed in human filth. That's Dante's blunt humor at work. Their words were always garbage, so now they live in it, literally. The third ditch makes Dante truly angry. Holes in the rock, each one containing a corrupt churchman planted upside down, only their burning feet visible. These are the simoniacs, who sold holy things for money. Pope Nicholas III is stuck in one of these holes. He thinks Dante is his successor come early. Even in hell, these corrupt popes can't stop scheming. The rot goes all the way to the top. In the fourth ditch, fortune tellers walk with their heads twisted backward on their necks. They claim to see the future. So now they can only see what's behind them. Dante weeps at the sight. But Virgil scolds him sharply. Here pity is a kind of wickedness, he says. To weep for God's justice is to question God himself. Dante wipes his eyes. The fifth ditch is boiling pitch. Black tar bubbles thickly, and grafters who took bribes in life are submerged in it. If they surface, demons with hooks yank them out and tear them apart. The demons here are called the Malabranch, the evil claws. They offer to escort Dante and Virgil safely along the ditch. Virgil trusts them. Dante does not. Dante is absolutely right. Here is genuine comedy inside the inferno. The demon captain signals the squad's departure with a vulgar trumpet blast from his backside. Dante actually wrote that. Even hell has slapstick moments. A grafter named Ciampolo surfaces briefly. The demons grab him, but he's clever. He promises to lure more sinners up from the pitch. Then, while the demons argue, he dives back in and escapes. Two furious demons crash into each other trying to catch him. They tumble into the boiling pitch themselves, wings stuck fast in the tar. The other demons scramble to fish them out. Pure chaos. Dante and Virgil seize the moment. They flee while the demons are distracted, sliding down a rocky slope into the next ditch. Virgil grabs Dante and carries him like a mother carrying a child. They land in the sixth ditch. Here walk the hypocrites, and their punishment is brilliantly cruel. They wear beautiful golden cloaks on the outside, but the cloaks are lined with crushing lead. On the ground lies Caiaphas, the high priest who condemned Christ. He is crucified flat on the ditch floor. Every heavy-footed hypocrite must walk directly over his body for all eternity. In the seventh ditch, thieves are attacked by swarms of serpents. The snakes bind their hands behind their backs and coil around them. Then bite, and the transformation begins. Vanni Fucci, a thief from Pistoia, is the most defiant soul Dante meets. Even after being reduced to ashes and rebuilt, he raises both fists toward heaven in an obscene gesture, cursing God himself. Something even stranger happens next. A serpent and a thief begin to merge. Their bodies dissolve into each other, human and snake becoming one confused creature. Identities swapping in a horrifying alchemy. The eighth ditch glows with a different kind of fire. Individual flames move along the trench floor like walking torches. Each flame wraps around a single soul. These are the fraudulent counselors. One flame is taller than the rest, and it splits at the top into two tongues. Inside burn Ulysses and Diomedes together, punished for the cunning trick that destroyed Troy. The wooden horse. Virgil calls down to the flame, and Ulysses speaks. Not about Troy. He tells the story of his final voyage. After returning home, wanderlust consumed him again. He sailed west beyond all known waters. Listen to what Ulysses told his crew. Consider your origins. You were not made to live as brutes, but to pursue virtue and knowledge. Even damned, his words are breathtaking. They sailed for 5 months into unknown ocean. Then a dark mountain appeared on the horizon, taller than anything they'd ever seen. Joy turned to terror. A whirlpool opened beneath them. Count Guido de Montefeltro tells a different tale of fraud. A cunning military fox who became a friar to repent, but a pope tricked him back into sin with a false promise of absolution. The ninth ditch is the most viscerally horrifying. Sowers of discord are split open by a demon with a sword. Their wounds heal as they walk the circuit, only to be sliced apart again. Dante places Muhammad and Ali here among the sowers of discord. It's a medieval Christian perspective, certainly controversial today. But Dante saw religious division as a form of the same terrible sin. The most unforgettable image. Bertrand de Born, the troubadour who set a prince against his father, walks carrying his own severed head by the hair like a lantern. The head is still talking. The 10th and final ditch holds the falsifiers, afflicted with terrible diseases. They scratch at scabs that never heal. 2 of them, Sinon and Master Adam, fight even while rotting, trading insults and blows. Dante stands watching the fight, fascinated. Virgil catches him staring and delivers a sharp rebuke. Wanting to watch people suffer is itself a low desire. Dante blushes with shame. Beyond Malebulge, they reach the giant's well. Enormous figures stand in a circular pit, their upper bodies rising like towers from the earth. These are the titans who challenged the gods. Nimrod, who built the Tower of Babel, stands among them. He opens his enormous mouth and speaks. But no one understands a word. His own punishment is the confusion of language he unleashed on humanity. The giant Antaeus agrees to lower them to the final floor. His enormous hand wraps around both travelers and sets them gently down on the frozen surface of Cocytus. The ice of ultimate betrayal. The ninth circle, the deepest pit of hell. No fire here, only ice. A vast frozen lake stretching in every direction, and embedded in it, the traitors, the worst sinners of all. The first zone is Cana, for traitors to family. Souls frozen to their necks in the ice, heads bowed. Teeth chattering so violently the sound fills the silence. Their tears freeze on their cheeks. Deeper. Antenora, traitors to country. And here Dante finds the most disturbing scene in the entire Inferno. Count Ugolino, gnawing on the skull of Archbishop Ruggieri, forever, his teeth never stopping. Ugolino lifts his mouth from the skull long enough to tell Dante what happened. He was a count. Ruggieri imprisoned him and his sons in a tower, then sealed the door, and waited. Days passed with no food. Ugolino watched his sons weaken one by one. The youngest looked up at him and said, "Father, it would hurt us less if you ate us." The children offered their own flesh. One by one the boys died. Ugolino went blind from starvation. He crawled among their bodies, calling their names. Then Dante says, "Hunger did what grief could not," and he leaves the rest unspoken. Even further in the ice, Ptolemaea for traitors to guests. Here something uniquely terrible happens. Some souls arrive in hell before their bodies have even died on earth. Their living bodies walk above, empty. Judeca, the final zone. Traitors to their benefactors. These souls are completely encased in ice like insects in amber, twisted into every possible position. Motionless gone. And there at the center of everything, at the very bottom of the universe, Satan himself, not a king on a throne, a monstrous figure frozen in ice up to his chest, weeping from 6 eyes. 3 mouths chew 3 sinners endlessly. Judas, who betrayed Christ, hangs from the central mouth. Brutus and Cassius, who murdered Caesar, suffer in the other 2. Betrayal upon betrayal upon betrayal. Look at Satan closely. He weeps from all 6 eyes. His wings beat but go nowhere. He was once the most beautiful angel in heaven. Now he's stuck, frozen, chewing. The greatest sinner is the most pathetic. Here's the deepest insight of the Inferno. The worst evil is not fire but ice. Betrayal freezes everything. It kills warmth, trust, love, connection. Hell's bottom is cold because betrayal makes the world cold. Virgil tells Dante to hold tight. He grabs Satan's matted fur and begins climbing down the giant's frozen body. They must pass the center of the earth itself. There is no other way out. At the center point, something disorienting happens. Virgil turns around. Suddenly up is down and down is up. They're climbing Satan's legs now, but going upward. Gravity has reversed. They've passed through the center of the earth. They climb through a narrow hidden passage in the rock, following the sound of a stream. Upward now, always upward. Every step taking them further from hell and closer to the surface on the other side of the world. And then, after all that darkness, after every circle of suffering, they emerge through a round opening in the rock, and Dante looks up, and he sees the stars, e quindia simo a riveter listel. Dawn breaks over the shore of Mount Purgatory. The air is impossibly sweet after hell's stench. A gentle ocean stretches before them, catching the first pink light. Everything feels clean and new and possible again. An old man appears on the shore. Cato of Utica, a Roman who killed himself rather than submit to tyranny. A pagan suicide guarding the entrance to purgatory. One of Dante's most daring choices. Virgil washes Dante's face with morning dew, cleaning away the soot and tears of hell. A ritual cleansing. The dirt of every circle rinsed off in the gentle light of a new morning. Across the morning sea, a boat of light approaches. An angel stands at the stern, wings spread like sails. The boat carries newly dead souls singing psalms, arriving for their purification. The beauty takes Dante's breath away. Among the new arrivals, Dante spots a friend. Casella, a musician he knew in life. They rush toward each other. Dante tries to embrace him, but his arms pass through Casella like air. He's a shade. Casella sings a song, one of Dante's own poems set to music. Everyone on the beach stops to listen, even Virgil. The melody is so beautiful that they forget they're supposed to be climbing the mountain, and this is where you feel the difference. In hell, suffering was punishment. In purgatory, suffering is medicine. The same pain, but chosen willingly. And that changes everything about what it means. Before the mountain proper, there's a waiting area. Ant purgatory. Souls who waited too long to repent must now wait here, sometimes for decades, before they can even begin their climb. Manfred steps forward from the crowd. Handsome and blond, with a visible sword wound splitting his brow. He's the grandson of an empress, excommunicated by the church, yet saved at his last breath. In a beautiful valley, negligent rulers sit together singing hymns at twilight. Kings and princes who were too busy governing to tend their souls. Even here, the view is spectacular, old habits die hard. Every evening a serpent slithers into this valley. Temptation visiting even the repentant. But two green-robed angels descend with flaming swords and chase it away. Grace protecting the willing. They meet Sordello, a poet from Mantua, Virgil's hometown. When Sordello hears where Virgil is from, he throws his arms around him in a fierce embrace. Love of home burns even after death. At last, the actual gate of purgatory. 3 steps lead up to it. White marble for confession. Dark cracked stone for contrition. Blood-red porphyry for satisfaction. An angel inscribes 7-letter P's on Dante's forehead with a sword tip. 7 P's for the 7 deadly sins. Peccatum, the Latin word for sin. 1 will be erased on each terrace as Dante climbs. By the top, his forehead will be clean and he will be free. First terrace, pride. The proud carry enormous stone slabs on their backs, bent so low their faces nearly touch the ground. They who held their heads so high now cannot look up at all. The floor beneath their feet is carved with breathtaking reliefs. David dancing humbly before the ark. Mary accepting the angel's message with grace. Emperor Trajan stopping his army to help a widow. Umberto Aldobrandeschi speaks from beneath his crushing stone. Once a great nobleman, arrogant about his lineage. Now he can barely lift his face to see who's speaking to him. And he's grateful for the lesson. As they leave the first terrace, an angel's wing brushes Dante's forehead. 1 P vanishes, and suddenly Dante feels lighter. Physically lighter. Like a weight he didn't know he carried has been lifted. Second terrace. Envy. Here the penitents sit in coarse sackcloth, leaning against the cliff wall. Their eyes are sewn shut with iron wire. Those who looked at others with jealousy can now see nothing at all. Because they cannot see, they must lean on each other. The envious, who could never bear others' success, now depend entirely on those same others. The punishment teaches the cure. That's the genius of purgatory. Sapia of Siena confesses freely. She once stood on a hilltop watching her own city's army lose a battle and felt joy. Her people's suffering made her happy. She recognizes now how monstrous that was. Third terrace. Wrath. A thick acrid smoke fills the entire ledge, so dense that Dante cannot see his own hand in front of his face. The wrathful walk in blindness, learning patience through choking darkness. A voice emerges from the smoke. Marco Lombardo, invisible but eloquent. He tells Dante something crucial. The stars may influence us, but free will is real. We choose who we become, no excuses. Fourth terrace. Sloth. The lazy who never hurried for anything in life now run constantly, shouting examples of urgency and zeal. They cannot stop. They gasp their confessions while sprinting past. The abbot of San Zeno barely manages a few words as he sprints by. He's learning urgency the hard way. A man who sleepwalked through his spiritual duties now runs as if his soul depends on it. Because it does. That night on the mountain, Dante sleeps and dreams. A beautiful woman appears, singing sweetly, promising rest and pleasure. She is the siren who lures men to laziness. Virgil tears her apart, revealing rottenness beneath. Fifth terrace. Avarice. The greedy lie face down on the stone, unable to look up. Their eyes that only looked at earthly things are now pressed to the earth itself. They weep into the dust. Pope Adrian V lies among them. a pope, face down in the dirt. He tells Dante that only when he became pope did he realize how empty wealth truly was. By then, it was too late to live differently. Hugues Capet, founder of the French royal dynasty, lies face down nearby, raging against his own descendants. Their greed poisoned Europe for centuries. Even a king's ghost condemns his bloodline from the dust. Suddenly the entire mountain shakes. An earthquake of joy, not destruction. Somewhere on the mountain, a soul has completed its purification. Every terrace trembles, and every soul begins singing, Gloria in excelsis Deo. A soul rises from the fifth terrace. Statius, the Roman poet, free at last after centuries of purgation. He joins Dante and Virgil, shaking with emotion. 3 poets now walking together upward. Statius tells Virgil something astonishing. You were like someone carrying a lantern behind him, lighting the path for others but not for yourself. Virgil's poetry led Statius to salvation. But Virgil himself is damned. Think about that for a moment. Virgil carried light he couldn't use himself. His own beauty, his own truth, saved someone else, but not him. If that doesn't break your heart a little, nothing will. 6th terrace. Gluttony. Emaciated souls circle a fragrant tree heavy with fruit. The branches curve upward and away, always out of reach. The aroma torments them. They starve amid abundance. Dante barely recognizes Foris Donati, his old friend, now wasted to skeletal thinness. Foris was a man who loved feasting. Now his face looks like a skull with skin stretched over it. Foris credits his wife Nella with shortening his time here. Her prayers on earth, her faithful love, reached across death and accelerated his healing. Love, it turns out, is stronger than separation and stronger than time. Bonagianto of Lucca recognizes Dante and asks about his poetry. They discuss the dolce stil novo, the sweet new style, Dante's revolutionary approach to writing about love as a path to the divine. 7th terrace. Lust. And here the purification is fire itself. A wall of flame stretches across the entire width of the terrace. The penitent souls walk through it willingly, singing hymns as they burn. Notice the difference from hell. In hell the lustful are blown by winds they cannot control. Here, they walk into the fire by choice. Same element of passion, opposite relationship. Submission versus will. Inside the flames, Dante hears Provençal poetry. It's Arnaut Daniel, the great troubadour, speaking his native tongue even here. He refines his art through fire just as he refines his soul. Then he steps back into the flame willingly. Now Dante must pass through the fire himself. He freezes in terror. He has watched others walk through it, but his living flesh knows what fire means. His whole body rebels against the step. Virgil uses the only words that could move him. Between you and Beatrice is this wall, and Dante steps into the fire. The pain is immense. But Beatrice's name pulls him through like a rope through flame. Night falls on the stairway above the fire. They can't climb in darkness. Dante sleeps on the stone steps and dreams of Lee and Rachel, representing the active and contemplative lives. Dawn approaches. Morning comes. And Virgil begins to speak in a way that makes Dante's heart ache. The temporal fire and the eternal you have seen. He says softly. I have brought you here. Now your own pleasure must guide you. I crown and mitre you over yourself. Virgil declares, king and bishop of your own soul. Your judgment is free now. Your will is healthy. It would be wrong not to follow it. The teacher lets the student go. The earthly paradise opens before them. The Garden of Eden, still perfect after all these millennia, sitting atop Mount Purgatory. Crystal streams. Flowers of every color, birdsong mixing with a gentle breeze. A woman walks along the far bank of a stream, gathering flowers and singing. Her name is Matilda. She moves through Eden like she belongs here completely, as natural as the flowers she picks. Matilda explains that 2 rivers flow through Eden, Lethe, which erases the memory of sin, and Eunog, which restores the memory of every good thing you've ever done. Both will wash through Dante before he rises. A mystical procession appears through the trees. 24 elders in white, a chariot drawn by a griffin, 7 candlesticks trailing flames like banners. winged creatures singing. The entire history of Scripture made visible. The chariot represents the church, drawn through history by the dual nature of Christ, the griffin, divine and human, eagle and lion. Every figure in the procession is a book of the Bible made flesh. On the chariot, a figure appears, veiled in white beneath a crown of olive leaves, wrapped in green mantle over red sash. It's Beatrice. At last, after the entire journey, she is here. Dante turns to tell Virgil, "Can you see her? She's really here." But Virgil is not there. He is gone, vanished without a word, without even saying goodbye, and Dante's heart shatters. Dante begins to weep for Virgil. But a voice from the chariot calls his name, Dante, sharp and clear. The only time his actual name appears in the entire poem. It's Beatrice, and she is not gentle. "Do not weep for him yet," Beatrice commands. "You will have other reasons to weep soon enough." Her voice is like a mother scolding a child she loves fiercely. This reunion is not what Dante expected. She accuses him directly. "After I died, you turned away from the path. You followed false images of good. You wasted the gifts you were given. You knew better, and you did it anyway." Dante tries to speak but cannot. His voice catches. Shame fills his throat like water. He barely manages a yes. "That's all. Yes, it's true. Everything you're saying."
Yes, I failed you.
The angels in the procession begin singing psalms of mercy. "In thee, O Lord, do I put my trust." They plead for Dante. And slowly, degree by degree, Beatrice's severity begins to ease. Then Beatrice lifts her veil, and Dante sees her face fully for the first time since she died. After crossing hell, climbing the mountain, walking through fire, here she is, and she is more beautiful than memory could hold. Matilda takes Dante's hand and pulls him into the river Lethe. The water closes over his head. When he surfaces, every memory of sin is gone, washed clean. He doesn't even remember being ashamed. The four cardinal virtues, prudence, justice, fortitude, temperance, dance around him in a ring. They lead him to Beatrice's chariot. "Look into her eyes," they say. "Look deep." In Beatrice's emerald eyes, Dante sees the griffin reflected, but the reflection keeps changing. First eagle, then lion, then eagle again. Christ's dual nature, human and divine, visible only through the lens of love. Finally, Matilda immerses him in the second river, Eunog. Every good thing he has ever done floods back into his memory. He emerges, in Dante's own words, pure and ready to rise to the stars. Paradiso begins. Dante rises with Beatrice toward heaven, not by climbing or flying, but by being drawn upward, the way a flame rises, the way love pulls, naturally and inevitably. Beatrice explains the physics of the soul. Everything in creation has a natural place it yearns toward. Stone falls to earth, fire rises to sky. The purified soul rises toward God. It's simply what it does. First heaven, the moon, a pale silvery sphere of soft light. Inside it, faces appear like reflections in still water, faint, gentle, barely there. These are souls who broke sacred vows. Piccarda Donati was a nun forced from her convent by violent men, made to marry against her will. She failed her vow, though not by choice. And yet she accepts her lesser place in heaven with perfect peace. She says something that becomes the most famous line of Paradiso. "In his will is our peace." 6 words. She wants nothing else, because God's arrangement is itself the thing most worth wanting. That's freedom. Mercury. Brighter now, the souls here glow like gold, and they rush toward Dante with eagerness. These did good deeds, but for fame rather than love. Bright, but not the brightest. Emperor Justinian appears, blazing gold, and tells the entire history of the Roman Empire in a single speech. From Troy's fall to Constantinople, the eagle's standard passed from hand to hand across centuries. Venus. The sphere of lovers redeemed. Their earthly passion hasn't been destroyed but transformed. The fire that once consumed them now illuminates everything around them. Charles Martel greets Dante warmly. A young king who actually met Dante in life, now radiant in Venus. He explains why children differ from their parents. Haven seeds variety into families deliberately. Every soul is unique by design. Cunizza de Romano blazes nearby. In life she was famous for many lovers. Here she glows with unashamed warmth. Love, she teaches, is not the sin. Misdirecting love is the sin, and she has been redirected. Fourth heaven, the sun. And here the brightness becomes almost too much. Great theologians and thinkers dance in rings of fire around Dante and Beatrice, circling like a blazing crown of wisdom. Thomas Aquinas speaks from the brightest flame. The greatest Catholic philosopher introduces each light in the circle by name, like a host at the most exclusive dinner party in existence. Scholars blazing with divine fire. Thomas tells the story of Saint Francis of Assisi, but he tells it as a love story. Francis married Lady Poverty. He chose her when everyone else rejected her. It's the most beautiful love story in the poem. Then Bonaventure, a Franciscan, tells the story of Saint Dominic, a Dominican. Each order praises the other's founder. Rivals in life, perfectly complementary in heaven. Francis brought gentleness, Dominic brought rigor. A second ring of 12 wise souls joins the dance. 24 great minds now orbit Dante and Beatrice like a double crown. Among them, Solomon blazes with particular beauty, wisdom's own light given visible form. Fifth heaven, Mars, the red sphere of holy warriors. Souls arranged in the shape of an enormous glowing cross. Each arm of the cross is a stream of blazing red gold lights, singing a hymn Dante cannot fully understand. From the cross, a single light descends with extraordinary speed and joy. It's Cacciagueda, Dante's own great-grandfather, a crusader knight. He greets his descendant with a love that spans 5 generations. Cacciagueda describes the Florence of his youth. Smaller, simpler, more virtuous. Women spun wool at home. Men kept their word. The city walls held everyone close, before wealth ruined everything. Then Cacciagueda tells Dante his future. You will be exiled from Florence. You will eat another man's salty bread. You will climb another man's stairs. Everything you love will be taken from you. Your party shall be yourself alone. Cacciagueda says, Dante's political allies will abandon him. He will belong to no faction. His only company will be his own integrity. It sounds like a curse. It's actually an honor. Cacciagueda gives his descendant a mission. Write down everything you have seen. Every hell, every mountain ledge, every sphere. Let the truth sting whoever it stings. Your poem will outlast their anger. Sixth heaven, Jupiter, silver white light now. The just rulers of history arrange themselves into glowing letters that spell a message across the sky. Love justice, you who judge the earth. The letter M transforms into a great eagle made of light. Thousands of individual just souls merge into one enormous speaking being. The eagle of justice. It has one voice, though it is made of many. Dante asks the eagle the hardest question. What about the just man born in India who never heard of Christ? Is he damned for an accident of geography? The eagle's answer is stunning. God's justice exceeds your imagination. As proof, the eagle reveals that Ripheus the Trojan is in its eye, a pagan. From the Aeneid, saved by grace no one expected, God's mercy operates beyond any human system. The rules are bigger than we think. Saturn. Golden light and silence. Here the contemplatives climb an infinite golden ladder, rising beyond sight. No singing here. The beauty would be too much for Dante's mortal senses to bear. Peter Damian descends the ladder, blazing with righteous anger. Even in golden Saturn, he denounces corrupt clergy. Their fat horses and fur-lined cloaks mock Christ's barefoot apostles. Holy fury has a place even in paradise. Saint Benedict appears on the ladder. The founder of Western monasticism, the man who built communities of prayer. He too laments what his order has become. But here high on the golden rungs, his original vision still shines. Dante rises to the 8th heaven, the fixed stars. And here he does something remarkable. Beatrice tells him to look down. He looks back at the entire universe below him, and he sees Earth. Earth is so small from here it makes him smile. All that war, all that greed, all those betrayals and loves and sorrows, happening on that tiny speck. From heaven's distance, human conflict looks almost funny. Then a blazing light descends from above. Christ himself, too bright to look at directly. And with him, Mary, surrounded by a ring of angelic fire. The triumph of Christ illuminates the entire star sphere. St. Peter appears as a great flame and examines Dante on faith. What is faith? Where did you find it? How do you know it's real? This is the final examination of the pilgrim's soul. Heaven has a catechism. Dante answers beautifully. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. He paraphrases Paul's letter to the Hebrews, and Peter's flame blazes brighter with approval. The apostle is pleased. St. James examines Dante on hope, then St. John on love. With each examination, Dante's vision grows sharper. But John's radiance is so intense it temporarily blinds him. Overwhelmed by love's brightness. While blind, Dante must answer about love without seeing. What do you love? How much? Why? He answers from the darkness, proving that love doesn't need eyes. The blindness is the lesson. All three apostles blaze together in approval. Dante's sight returns stronger than before, refined by the temporary blindness. He can now see things he couldn't before. The examinations have improved his very perception. A fourth light appears. Adam himself, the first human being. He speaks of Eden, of the first language humanity spoke, of how brief their time in the garden truly was. Before noon on their first day, they fell. Then St. Peter's flame turns red, not with joy but with fury. He is about to denounce the corruption of the papacy. From heaven itself, the first pope condemns what his successors have done to his church. Peter rages. He who usurps my place on earth has made my burial ground a sewer of blood and filth. The first pope, from heaven, declaring the current papacy illegitimate. Dante's audacity is breathtaking. Ninth heaven, the primum mobile, the outermost physical sphere spinning fastest of all. Here time has its root. Everything that moves in the universe takes its motion from this sphere's spinning. Beatrice explains with a smile. Here time has its root, like a plant growing from a pot placed upside down above you. Everything below flows from here. The first cause of all motion, right before the source. A point of light appears. Indescribably bright, smaller than a star but more intense than the sun. And around it, 9 rings of fire spin at different speeds. Dante has found the center of everything. The 9 rings are the angel hierarchies. Seraphim spin closest to the point, blazing with pure love. Cherubim next, then thrones. 9 orders of angels, each one a ring of fire circling the divine center. Beatrice names them all in order. Seraphim, cherubim, thrones, dominations, virtues, powers, principalities, archangels, angels. 9 orders descending from purest love to the earthly messengers you might actually encounter. The Empyrean. Beyond space and time. Beyond the physical universe entirely. Pure light. Dante's vision shifts from what eyes can see to something else entirely. This is it. The end of the journey. A river of light flows before them. Not water but living radiance. Golden sparks leap from its surface like fish. On its banks, jeweled flowers bloom and fade in an endless cycle. Light made liquid and alive. Beatrice tells Dante to drink the light with his eyes. He bends to the river and looks. And the moment the light touches his vision, everything transforms. The river becomes a circle. The sparks become angels. The flowers become souls. The white rose, an enormous amphitheater made entirely of light, shaped like an open rose. Each petal is a tier of seats. Each seat holds a blessed soul. Thousands upon thousands, all looking toward the center. The most beautiful image in all of literature. Beatrice takes her place in the rose. 3rd row from the top. She looks down at Dante one last time and smiles. That smile, after everything. That is how he will remember her forever. Then she turns toward God. An old man in white stands beside Dante now. Saint Bernard, the great mystic, devoted to the Virgin Mary. He will guide Dante through the final steps. The poet's last companion for the last vision. Bernard points out the rose's arrangement. On one side, those who believed in Christ to come. On the other, those who believed in Christ who came. Mary at the summit. Eve just below her. The whole story of humanity mapped in light. Bernard prays to the Virgin Mary. It is the most beautiful prayer in the entire poem. Virgin Mother, daughter of your Son, humble and exalted more than any creature. He asks that Dante be allowed to see God directly. Dante looks up, into the very center of the rose, into the light itself, and he sees 3 circles of light, same size, different colors, spinning together, interpenetrating, occupying the same space, the Trinity. In the second circle, Dante sees something that makes his mind stop. A human face, painted in the circle of light. God became human. The Incarnation. The mystery he has been traveling toward since the dark wood. His mind cannot hold it. But then a flash of understanding strikes him like lightning, and his will and desire are moved, perfectly, smoothly, by the love that moves the sun and the other stars. The poem ends. The journey is complete. Now let's meet the man who dreamed all this. Because the Divine Comedy didn't come from nowhere. It came from one of the most extraordinary and painful lives in literary history. Florence, 1265. Dante Alighieri is born into a minor noble family in the most vibrant, violent, beautiful city in Italy. A city of towers and feuds and astonishing wealth. He's baptized in the beautiful octagonal baptistry of San Giovanni, the building he'll call My Beautiful San Giovanni, decades later in exile. His earliest memory is that gleaming marble interior and the sacred water. Age 9. A party at a Florentine nobleman's house. Young Dante sees a girl across the room. She is 8 years old, wearing a crimson dress. Her name is Beatrice Portinari. His entire world shifts in that instant. The boy stands there speechless. Something has happened that he won't fully understand for decades. But this moment, this girl in crimson, will eventually produce the greatest poem the world has ever read. 9 years pass. Dante is 18. He sees Beatrice again on a Florence street. She greets him politely, just a greeting, and he nearly collapses from joy. That's the intensity we're dealing with here. Beatrice marries another man, Simone di Bardi, a prominent banker. This was standard for Florentine nobility. Marriages were alliances, not love matches. Dante may never have spoken more than a few words to her in his life. June 1290. Beatrice dies. She is 24 years old, and Dante falls apart. He writes that the city itself seemed widowed. The sun seemed to darken. Everything that was bright went out. From his grief he writes La Vita Nuova, the new life, a mixture of poetry and prose about his love for Beatrice. Raw, strange, beautiful. The first great work of Italian literature, born from a young man's heartbreak. At the end of La Vita Nuova, he makes a promise. He will write something worthy of Beatrice. Something never before said about any woman. He doesn't know it yet, but that promise will take him through hell itself to keep. But before the poem there is politics. Florence in the 1290s is tearing itself apart. Guelphs versus Ghibellines. Then white Guelphs versus black Guelphs. Family against family, street by street. Dante enters the arena. He becomes one of Florence's 6 priors, the highest governing office. A poet in politics. He tries to be fair. Tries to keep peace between factions. It will cost him everything. 1302. While Dante is away on a diplomatic mission to Rome, the Black Guelphs seize power in Florence. Everything changes in a single night. Dante's faction is destroyed. His property is confiscated. The sentence comes. Dante is condemned to exile. If he sets foot in Florence again, he will be burned alive at the stake. He is 37 years old. He will never go home. Not once. The wandering years begin. Dante moves from court to court across northern Italy, dependent on the generosity of patrons. Verona, Lunigiana, Ravenna, always a guest, never at home, writing when he can. He writes about it later in the poem. You shall know how salt is the taste of another's bread, and how hard the path to climb and descend another's stairs. Every exile's experience compressed into 2 devastating lines. In exile, probably around 1308, he begins writing the comedy. The poem that will consume the rest of his life. And he makes a radical choice. He writes it in Italian, not Latin. That decision changes everything. Latin was the language of scholars and priests. By writing in Italian, Dante ensures that anyone, merchants, women, common people, could read his poem. Literature belongs to everyone, he insists. He calls his poem Commedia, comedy, because it begins in misery and ends in joy. That's the classical definition. The word divine was added later by admirers. To Dante it was simply the comedy. His journey from darkness to light. The structure is mathematical perfection. 100 cantos total. 1 introductory canto, then 33 for each of the 3 realms: Inferno, Purgatorio, Paradiso. The number 3 governing everything, Trinity in architecture, and terza rima. Dante invented this rhyme scheme himself. ABA BCB CDC, each stanza interlocking with the next, like links in a chain pulling you forward. You can never quite stop reading, because each rhyme demands the next. The number 3 is everywhere. 3 realms. 3 beasts in the dark wood. 3 line stanzas. 3 faces of Satan. 3 circles of the Trinity. The Holy Trinity encoded in the poem's DNA. The Inferno was probably finished first, around 1314, and it circulated while Dante was still writing the later canticles. People read it avidly. Some were delighted. Others were terrified to find themselves in hell. Because here's the extraordinary thing. Dante put real people in his poem. Living enemies went to hell. Dead friends went to heaven. The poet made himself judge of all Italy, and Italy read the verdict with furious fascination. His greatest target, Pope Boniface VIII. Dante placed a living pope in hell, before the man had even died, condemned to the simoniac's ditch with his feet on fire. The audacity still astonishes scholars today. In Verona, Dante finds his most important patron, King Grande della Scala, the powerful young lord. To him Dante dedicates the Paradiso and writes a famous letter explaining the poem's 4 levels of meaning. Dante explains that his poem works on 4 levels simultaneously: the literal story, the allegorical meaning, the moral lesson, and the anagogical, the spiritual truth about the soul's journey to God. All 4 happening in every line. Understanding Dante's universe helps. He lived in the medieval cosmos. Earth sits at the center. 9 crystal spheres revolve around it, carrying the planets and stars. God dwells beyond the outermost sphere. Hell descends inside the earth itself. Dante's greatest literary source was Virgil's Aeneid, specifically Book 6, where Aeneas descends to the underworld. By making Virgil his guide, Dante declares himself the Roman poet's heir while transforming the pagan journey into a Christian one. Some scholars see Islamic influences too. Muhammad's night journey, the Kitab al-Miraj, describes an ascent through 7 heavens. Whether Dante knew this text directly is debated, but the parallels are striking and the question remains open. Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas provide the philosophical backbone. Reason and faith working together, each strengthening the other. Dante's hell is organized by Aristotelian ethics, his heaven runs on Thomistic theology. Both systems unified by love. Contrapasso, the principle that makes hell logical. Every punishment mirrors the sin. The lustful are blown by uncontrollable winds. Fortune tellers have their heads twisted backward. The logic is moral, not arbitrary. You become your choices. The journey is set during Easter week of 1300, the Jubilee year. Pope Boniface declared it a year of pilgrimage and forgiveness. Dante's fictional soul journey mirrors the real pilgrimages flooding into Rome that year. What makes the comedy so immediate is that Dante filled it with people his readers actually knew. Not mythological figures alone, but politicians, neighbors, friends, enemies, real faces in eternal fire or eternal light. This made it scandalous and irresistible. Imagine a novel today that named every corrupt senator, every faithless spouse, every lying businessman by their real name, and placed them in hell forever. That was the comedy's impact. His last years are spent in Ravenna under the protection of Guido Novello da Polenta. Finally, some stability. Dante teaches, writes, finishes the Paradiso. The Byzantine mosaics in Ravenna's churches may have inspired his visions of heavenly light. He finishes the Paradiso in his final years. Some legends say the last 13 cantos were lost after his death, and found by his son in a hidden compartment. Whether true or not, the ending feels miraculous. September 1321. Returning from a diplomatic mission to Venice, Dante contracts malaria. He dies in Ravenna on September 14th, aged 56. The comedy is complete. The poet's exile ends in the only way it could. Florence immediately demands his bones back. The city that exiled him and threatened to burn him alive now wants to claim its most famous son. Ravenna refuses. They still have his remains today. Florence has only an empty tomb. Visit Ravenna today and you'll find a small neoclassical chapel housing his tomb. A lamp burns inside, filled with olive oil sent each year from Tuscany. Florence's annual guilt offering to the man it drove away. His bones have been hidden twice. Once by Franciscan monks who bricked them behind a wall during political turmoil. For centuries, no one knew where they were. They were rediscovered by accident in 1860, 600 years after his birth. Here is the great irony of Dante's life. The man Florence exiled became Florence's greatest claim to fame. The city that rejected him now puts his face on everything. Every tourist who visits comes partly because of him. Perhaps his greatest legacy beyond the poem itself. Dante essentially created the Italian language. His Tuscan dialect became the foundation of modern Italian, because the comedy was so widely read that it standardized the tongue. Before Dante, Italian was considered a dialect unsuitable for serious literature. Latin was the language of learning. Dante proved, by sheer force of genius, that the common tongue could carry the highest art. After Dante, everything changes. Petrarch writes his sonnets in Italian. Boccaccio writes the Decameron in Italian. Both cite Dante as the pioneer. A literary tradition is born because one exile refused to write in Latin. Dante also wrote De Vulgari Eloquentia, a treatise defending the use of common language in literature. A scholarly argument for why the speech of nurses and grandmothers deserves the dignity of art. In Latin, ironically enough, the Convivio, his philosophical banquet, was meant to be 15 courses long. He finished only 4. Even unfinished, it shows the vastness of his learning. Philosophy, astronomy, ethics, linguistics. All served in Italian, all for everyone. De Monarchia, his political treatise, argues that the world needs a single emperor separate from the Pope. Church and state with different domains, different authorities, a remarkably modern idea from a medieval mind. All his works connect. Exile, loss, politics, love, God, language, justice. Every thread of his life weaves into one tapestry. The comedy isn't separate from his other writings. It's the summit they all climb toward. He did what he promised. At the end of La Vita Nuova, the heartbroken young man swore to write something worthy of Beatrice, something never said about any woman before. And he did, the greatest poem ever written. Promise kept. 700 years. That's how long ago Dante finished this poem, and it hasn't stopped mattering for a single one of those years. Why? What makes a medieval Italian poem immortal? It was the first literary masterpiece written in a European vernacular language. Before Shakespeare by 3 centuries. Before Cervantes by 2. Dante proved that a common tongue could hold the weight of eternity. Sandro Botticelli was among the first great artists to illustrate the poem. 92 delicate drawings on parchment, each one a careful reading of a single canto. Pen and ink conversations between 2 Florentine geniuses across 2 centuries. William Blake created 102 watercolor illustrations for the comedy. His vision turned hell into a psychological landscape. Flames became emotions. Demons became inner states. Blake saw the poem as a map of the human mind. But the illustrations most people picture when they think of the comedy are Gustave Doré's. Published in 1861. Dark, dramatic engravings that defined how the world sees hell. Those towering cliffs. Those tiny suffering figures. That scale. Auguste Rodin spent decades on his gates of hell. Massive bronze doors inspired by the inferno, covered with writhing figures. And sitting above them, thinking, is the thinker. Most people don't know it. The thinker is Dante. Salvador Dali painted 100 surrealist watercolors for the comedy in the 1950s. Melting clocks meeting medieval theology. Dripping landscapes holding frozen sinners. The surrealists saw in Dante a fellow explorer of the irrational. Tchaikovsky composed Francesca da Rimini in 1876. A symphonic poem that captures the second circle's howling storm in orchestral sound. The wind becomes violins. The lover's grief becomes a melody that tears at you. Liszt wrote his Dante symphony in 2 movements, Inferno and Purgatorio, with a Magnificat chorus at the end, instead of a Paradiso movement. Even Liszt felt that heaven's music was beyond a composer's reach. Dante might have agreed. T.S. Eliot wrote simply, Dante and Shakespeare divide the modern world between them. There is no third. Coming from perhaps the 20th century's greatest poet in English, that verdict carries weight beyond measure. Eliot's own masterpiece, The Waste Land, is built on Dantean fragments. I had not thought death had undone so many. That line comes from Dante's Vestibule, the crowd chasing the blank banner, the modern world through medieval eyes. George Luis Borges, the great Argentine writer, considered the comedy the single greatest achievement of all literature. He read it in Italian on Buenos Aires streetcars, carrying the small dent edition everywhere, memorizing entire cantos. Primo Levi, an Italian chemist imprisoned in Auschwitz, recited the Ulysses canto from memory to a fellow prisoner. In the absolute worst of human hells, Dante's words about pursuing virtue and knowledge kept a man's soul alive. Osip Mandelstam, the Russian poet, wrote a groundbreaking study of Dante while living under Stalin's terror. He saw in the comedy a fellow political exile's fury and love. The book nearly cost him his life. It was worth it. Seamus Heaney, the Irish Nobel laureate, translated and responded to Dante throughout his career. He found in Purgatory a mirror for Ireland's troubles, a place where suffering was chosen as the price of becoming better. Filmmakers have tried repeatedly to capture the comedy on screen. Peter Greenaway attempted it. Dozens of others have taken on the Inferno. The challenge is impossible. How do you film the infinite? Most settle for hell. Almost nobody attempts paradise. In 2010, a video game called Dante's Inferno turned the poem into an action-adventure. Dante as a muscular crusader hacking through demons with a scythe. Scholars were horrified. Players were fascinated. The poem reached new audiences regardless. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here, has entered every language on earth. People who have never read a line of Dante know that phrase. Hell's circles became common knowledge. The 9 levels entered the popular imagination permanently. Even the poem's name evolved beyond Dante's control. He called it simply Commedia. The word divina, divine, was added by Boccaccio decades later. The poet's humble title upgraded by an admiring reader into something sacred. Before Freud mapped the unconscious, Dante mapped it in poetry. Hell is desire uncontrolled. Purgatory is desire being reshaped. Paradise is desire perfected. 7 centuries before psychoanalysis, Dante understood that we are what we want. His moral architecture still compels us. Fraud is worse than violence because it corrupts the mind. Betrayal is worst of all because it destroys trust itself. We instinctively agree with Dante's rankings, even 7 centuries later. Politically, the comedy reads like today's headlines. Corruption at the highest levels. Exile for speaking truth to power. Partisan hatred destroying cities. Dante's Florence and our world share more than we'd like to admit. At its heart, the comedy is a love story. A man writes the greatest poem in human history for a woman he barely spoke to. He saw her twice, maybe 3 times. And she changed everything. That's either madness or the deepest truth about love there is. Maybe that love was idealized. Certainly Beatrice, the real woman, and Beatrice, the poem's character, are different beings. But the idealization moved Dante to create something that outlasted them both. Sometimes the dream is the point. Exile was the crucible. Without his suffering, Dante might have been a good Florentine poet. With it, he became a universal one. His personal loss became everyone's loss. His journey became everyone's journey. Every reference to Florence in the comedy is both a wound and a love letter. He curses the city's corruption. He mourns its lost virtue. He remembers its beauty with an exile's aching precision. He never stops loving what destroyed him. Every generation translates Dante anew. Robert Hollander, the Durlings, Clive James, Mary Jo Bang. Each translator finds a different Dante in the same Italian lines. The poem is somehow big enough to contain all their versions. Why read it now? In an age of distraction and fragmented attention, the comedy demands something rare. It asks you to slow down, pay attention. Follow a single thought for 100 cantos. And it rewards every ounce of that attention completely. The journey structure is universal. From confusion to clarity, from darkness to light, every person alive knows what it feels like to be lost in a dark wood. Dante says there is a path through. It goes down before it goes up, but it goes through. Contrapasso applies to daily life whether we name it or not. We become our choices. The greedy grow emptier. The wrathful push everyone away. The slothful miss their own lives. Dante saw this with perfect clarity 700 years ago. Purgatory offers the deepest insight of all. Suffering that is chosen willingly transforms you. Suffering that is merely imposed breaks you. The difference between hell and purgatory is consent. The same fire, different relationship. Everything changes. Beatrice in the comedy is not a passive muse waiting to be rescued. She commands angels. She rebukes Dante. She explains theology. She is the most powerful character in the poem. The divine feminine as active force, not decorative object. Virgil represents the beauty and the limit of human reason. He can guide Dante through hell and up the mountain, but he cannot enter heaven. He is noble, wise, loving, and not enough. The saddest character in the poem and the most beloved guide. The final vision is not about understanding God, but about being overwhelmed by love. Dante doesn't decode the Trinity. He is struck by it, like lightning. His intellect fails and love succeeds where reason cannot. The love that moves the sun and the other stars. That's how the poem ends. Not with thunder, not with doctrine, with love. The entire universe, Dante insists, runs on love.
Not power, not fear, not
Duty, love. And that's why this story is perfect for tonight. A journey from darkness to light, from fear to peace, from confusion to the clearest vision a human mind has ever achieved. You've been walking with Dante all this time. The comedy says something simple underneath all its complexity. You are lost, but there is a way through. Someone is watching over you. The path is hard, but it exists, and at the end of it, there is light. It doesn't promise easy answers. The path goes through hell, every circle of it, every monster and every frozen lake. Dante doesn't skip anything. But the path goes through, not around. That honesty is part of the comfort. 700 years of readers have found comfort in the same journey you just heard. Soldiers and prisoners, scholars and children, the grieving and the curious, all of them walked this path, all of them found the stars. The poem lives. Every time someone opens it, Dante walks into that dark wood again. Every time someone reads the last line, the love that moves the stars moves through them too. It never stops, it never will. So, the Divine Comedy. A man lost in a dark forest. A journey through every kind of human suffering, every kind of healing, every kind of beauty. And at the end, the love that holds the universe together. Written by a man who lost everything. His city, his home, his political career, the woman who changed his life. And who turned all of that loss into something the world has treasured for 700 years. If there's one thing to carry from tonight, it might be this. Even the darkest forest has a path through it. You might not see it yet, but Dante says it's there, and he would know. And on the other side of the forest, and the fire, and the ice, and the mountain, and all those spinning spheres of light, there are stars. There are always stars. Dante ends each canticle with that word stell. Stars when you escape hell. Stars when you finish climbing the mountain. Stars when you see the face of God. Dante looked up at the end of every chapter and found the same reassurance. Light above the darkness. And here's something comforting to fall asleep to. Dante believed the universe was built with intention. Everything connects. Nothing is wasted. Not even suffering. Especially not suffering. It all goes somewhere meaningful. In his universe, you are exactly where you need to be. Even the dark wood was part of the journey. Without it, there would be no gates of hell to pass, no mountain to climb, no stars to find. Virgil would want you to rest now. That patient, wise guide who carried Dante like a child down the rocky slope, who washed his face with morning dew, he would say, "You've heard enough. Close your eyes." Beatrice smiles from her seat in the rose. That final smile, the one Dante carries forever. Warm and knowing, not worried about you. She sees how the story ends, and it ends well. Trust her on this. In Dante's purgatory, the souls cannot climb at night. They must rest. Sleep is not failure there. Sleep is part of the design. Even the penitent are required to stop and close their eyes when darkness comes. Dante's 3 most important dreams in the poem all happen during sleep on the mountain. The soul does its deepest work in rest. The visions come when the conscious mind steps aside. Sleep is not empty. Sleep is full. The earthly paradise is quiet. Crystal streams murmuring over smooth stones. Birdsong mixing with wind in the branches. Flowers everywhere but no urgency. No climbing left to do. Just being in a garden that asks nothing of you. Casella's song on the beach. The melody so beautiful that everyone forgot to climb. Even Virgil stood still and listened. Some beauty is so perfect that it stops time. Tonight, let time stop for you too. Remember the river Lethe. It washes away the memory of everything that hurt you. Imagine stepping into that water now. Cool and silver, every worry dissolving, every unkind word forgotten, every burden just floating away downstream. And then Unob, the river that returns only the good memories. Every kind thing someone did for you. Every moment of unexpected beauty. Every time someone held your hand when you needed it. Only the good remains. In his will is our peace. Picarda's words from the moon. Not struggling against anything tonight. Not trying to be anywhere else or anyone else. Just here. Just this. The deepest rest comes from not fighting the current. The valley of the negligent rulers at twilight. Kings and princes singing hymns as the sun goes down. The grass soft beneath them. The flowers releasing their evening scent. Even rulers are allowed to rest when day is done. 2 green angels descend every evening to protect that valley. Flaming swords, but blunted tips. They guard the sleepers. Nothing harmful can enter while you rest. The valley is sealed and safe until morning. The comedy teaches that the universe cares about you specifically, not generally, not abstractly you. Beatrice left her seat in heaven because one person was lost in the woods. One person was worth the entire journey. Virgil came because Beatrice asked. Beatrice moved because Lucy asked. Lucy acted because Mary herself looked down with compassion. 3 women in heaven, concerned about one man in a forest. That's the kind of universe Dante believed in. So if you're feeling lost tonight, remember. In Dante's universe, being lost is the beginning, not the end. The dark wood is where every great journey starts. And the guides are already on their way. Let your breathing settle now, deep and slow. Like the calm ocean at the foot of purgatory, gentle waves on a quiet shore. The same rhythm that Dante heard after climbing out of hell. The breath of the free world. Dante slept on that shore too. After everything he'd witnessed in hell. The demons, the ice, the suffering. He lay down on clean sand and let the waves wash his exhaustion away. The body knows when it's safe. Yours is safe now. The mountain will still be there in the morning. The climb will still wait. But right now, this moment, there is no mountain. There is no climb. There is only the shore and the stars and the sound of the waves. Good night, sweet pilgrim. You've walked through hell tonight. You've climbed the mountain and seen the stars. You've stood in the white rose and heard the love that holds the universe together. That's enough for one night. That's more than enough. In his will is our peace. In his love, the sun and the other stars. In your rest tonight, the same quiet order that holds planets in their orbits holds you in yours. Let it hold you now. Matilda walks softly through the earthly paradise, gathering flowers in the dim evening. Her song is barely audible now. A murmur, a humming. The kind of sound you hear just before sleep takes you completely. The river Lethe carries everything away. Let it carry your thoughts now. Every unfinished task, every unsent message, every small worry, into the gentle current. Downstream, gone, only good things remain. Dante's candle burns lower now. The ink is dry, the quill is set aside. The manuscript is finished, the poet rests. 700 years of readers have rested after him. You're in excellent company tonight. The green angels stand guard. The stars turn slowly overhead. The ocean breathes. The mountain waits. And you, dear listener, have traveled further tonight than you may realize. From the dark wood all the way to God's own light. If you're still awake, that's perfectly fine. Sometimes the mind needs a little longer to settle. The path is still here. The shore is still calm. The waves still breathing, no rush, no judgment. Dante never judged the sleeper. The love that moves the sun and the other stars is moving through you now. Through your breathing. Through your heartbeat. Through the heaviness in your eyelids. It's the same love. The same gentle force. Let it carry you. Stars. Always stars. The last word Dante chose for every ending. The light that waits beyond every darkness. The promise that no matter how deep the night, there are always stars above it, always. Good night. Sleep well. The mountain will still be there tomorrow. The rose will still be blooming. And the love that moves the stars will still be turning the universe gently, gently, while you rest. E quindi asimo a riveter l'estelle. And then we came out to see the stars once more.